So here we'll set rolling for the next session. Many performing arts are under threat today. As cultural practices become standardized, tradition practices are being abandoned. Even in cases where they become popular, only some expressions may benefit while the others crucially suffer. And this narrative becomes important when we talk about my country, my kahani. To have, to have a dynamic to have a dynamic discourse on the same, titled Show and Tell, Shaving Cultural Practices, we have with us Mr. Prateek Patnaik, researcher, archivist, and musician, Ms. Arushi Mudgal, Odissi dance exponent, and Ms. Sniti Mishra, classical vocalist. I request all of them to please join the stage for the session. Ms. Arushi Mudgal is one of the finest Odissi artists who had been selected as one of the top 10 dancers in 2018 by the New York Times. Ms. Sniti Mishra, a Visharad in classical music, has been the youngest flag bearers of classical vocal music. She won the Most Remarkable Voice title at the Zee Saregama Pa Singing Superstar in 2010. Her performances are inclined towards the Indian youth getting closer to classical music. Apart from being in association with Grammy nominee Louis Banks, her famous Kashmiri Sufi piece has featured in the Manoj Bajpayee starrer web series The Family Man. And Mr. Prateek Patnaik is a devoted scholar of the Odissi classical music and a proponent of the Jagannath temple tradition. He has made efforts to document rare art forms of Odisha, which has showered upon him blessings from distinguished peers. I would also request Ms. Kaveri Bamzai, the festival coordinator, to join the panelists and moderate the session. The session has been dedicated 30 minutes, inclusive of the last 5 minutes for questions from the audience. Thank you.
Since we're already running over time, quite remarkable that we're already doing that, I'd like to request all of you to briefly talk about your art, and then we'll expect a little performance, a little demonstration of it. I know we're asking a lot, but it's so rare to have such talented people here. So I'd like to start with Prateek right away, because I think he's the youngest in the entire audience, if not on stage. Prateek, talk a little about what drew you to actually documenting the arts and the performing arts of the state.
Hello.
And how old are you exactly?
I'm 22.
22, tell me.
Okay, so there's music in our family. My grandmother used to sing. She used to sing Odissi classical.
Right.
And was very much into music from the beginning. And over time, I began to listen to old gramophone recordings that I'd listened to from my grandmother. The songs of the 1930s and 1920s, people who were aged 70, 80 have recorded them in 1934. So that's a very less researched field in our state especially. There's a lot of work going on in that regard across the country, but very little in Odisha. Gradually, I began watching all the performing art forms of the state, and gosh, there are a lot. If you go about Ramalila, there are singularly almost 30 Ramalilas only in Odisha. 30 versions, over that most likely. So then I was like, what are the songs? Then I have to know, and I went to the villages and all. For example, there's a 105-year-old guru right now in the villages as we speak. And he sings the Krishna Lila. He's one of the last scions of the great veterans of that form. And you don't get to listen to these songs. And if I tell there are the 30 Rama Lilas, then count in all the Krishna Lilas and Radha Prema Lila, Bharata Lila, Prahalada Nataka, Rama Nataka. I can go on. The list is, it'll be at least some 200 or so forms, each having 400 songs, 500 songs. There are ragas that are dying. Because as a musician, this interests me very much, because just like if you find a piece of a temple that has remained buried underground and it's being excavated, that's the feeling I get when I listen to a raga that has been composed by Kavi Surja Baladev Ratha some 300, 200 years ago. This is the first time I'm realizing this stuff is there and nobody has cared to collect it. and that's a kind of thrill that it gives me, and I decided to shoot it because unless I record it, there's literally I've met single people. I've met people. There was a Ramalila in Chikiti of Ganjam. It was known as Chikiti Ramalila. It is a very, very highly classical and elongated kind of singing. It was very prevalent in that region some 300-400 years ago. It was like.
And there's just one performer of it now?
There's a single man for whom I had to go to 15 villages.
Just one
I went
person.
to one village. That form has become extinct from 1950.
Oh.
And it has some 630 songs.
Right.
And so I was just, I went to a village nearby from documentation from the 80s. And they were like, no, it is gone. And you go to the other village. There were 12 people in this village, they've died. So I went to the other village. The Sasan ho jao. I went to the Sasan. It's not there. They were like, no, our grandfather used to listen to it. Since there's no one. They told, go to the other village, perhaps you'll get a notebook. Then I went to the other village. They were like, there's a Krishna Lila Guru who can tell you more. He was like, no, there's a Guru in that village. So that's how much you have to scour for these things. There are literally 400 songs in each form. Just multiply that into some 30. You have some thousands of songs and ragas of Odisha, uniquely things of Odia that you won't find anywhere else. So
wonderful. I think this is quite remarkable. May I just quickly bring you in, Sniti, because when he talks about ragas, we have to ask you. You obviously grew up in this atmosphere. So talk a little about your growing up, and then you gravitated towards Hindustani classical music. How did that happen?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this panel.
And I want to congratulate you on a marvelous Saraswati Vandana. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. It was absolute an honor for me to present it here, and thank you so much. And entire team, I would like to congratulate such a wonderful event today. As you mentioned, ma'am, that yes, I don't belong to any musical family, but I have grown up listening to Ustad Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab and Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji. And then also of old classics, Lata Mangeshkar ji, Muhammad Rafi Saab, whatever song they used to sing and whatever melody they have given to the music industry, I got to know that their base is Hindustani classical. And because of their base and the level of singing they do, till now we are listening to that melody, those are known as evergreen classics. And the thumris we are presenting right now in the Indian classical Khayal Gayan or Bilambit or whatever we are singing, whatever form we are singing, Ustad Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab and Pandit Jashraj ji, we are still singing. So they are always been great inspiration for me, and because I've been extremely inspired by their singing, and also fortunately my guru, Dr. Raghunath Sahu sir, who is a disciple of Dr. Damodar Hota. We all know that he's such a eminent personality, Hindustani, legendary classical artist of Odisha. And because he came to my life and I was just 12, and in such a tender age, I felt that this is a music I should learn and I want to inculcate in me. So that's how I started, and this is how I have started my understanding towards Indian classical music.
Arushi, you have been surrounded by music and dance, I think, since you were a baby. You know, your aunt, your father, your grandfather, I think all of them have been practitioners. What was it like growing up, and how have you taken your heritage forward?
Like you said, I was born in a family of artists, and it was very natural for me to sort of take to it. And it was never a compulsion for me to, that you're born in this family and you must practice this. That was never the case. But
no pressure, but there was a lot of pressure.
The pressure didn't feel like pressure.
Right.
Let me put it like that. Because I loved it that much. It was just something that I really enjoyed even as a toddler. I would just run into my aunt's class and try to copy her gestures and all that. So it's something that I loved. And it was very natural for me to just go into that space. But what I'd actually like to, because I was just seeing here, what is very interesting is that we are here today in Bhubaneswar at Odisha Literary Festival. And here I am from Delhi, practicing an art form that comes from Odisha,
Yes.
which I think talks volumes about the art form. It talks volumes about the culture of Odisha, which is not limited to the state, but has now crossed boundaries, not just of states, but of nations. And today, Odissi music, Odissi dance, it's practiced across the world. So I think that is extremely heartening to see. And that I think, and also, and I find it very interesting that here is Pratik, who's practicing, he's going to villages collecting music, which is getting lost. And here is Sniti from the same state, who's of course doing this music and has tilted towards Hindustani. So it's, I think culture has no boundaries, and this is the point that I can see at all around me right now, which is really heartening.
Yeah, and I think it's up to people like you to take it forward. So I wanted to focus on that, Arushi, with you, and then I'll ask that question of the others as well. What is it that we need to do to keep this contemporary, to keep it modern? Or is it that we just need to stick to what we're doing?
So, see, I feel that all these art forms, it's not that there is a category of people who are preserving it and there is a category of people who are taking it forward.
Right.
It is very overlapping. If I am someone who is doing a very, very traditional Odia song that was created by my guru's guru perhaps 50 years back, I'm also someone who's creating new work, who's going into more abstract concepts. So the preservation is also happening and the taking forward is also happening. And having said that, I also very firmly believe that all these traditional pieces, or the tradition, what we call tradition, is in itself very contemporary. Because tradition is not something that is stuck in time. It is changing with time. It's ever evolving. So what Odissi was 50 years back has evolved ever since. It's been changing, and each generation is contributing to it. Each generation is adding their things, and it's evolving with the current times. Everything adds to it. The society, the social factors, economic factors, everything has an impact. Political factors, everything has impact on culture, and culture has impact on all those factors. So everything is interrelated, and there is bound to be change. But that is what keeps it going. And that's why this whole, the idea, the subject of today's discussion, saving cultural practices and stories of the future, I feel they're interrelated. Both are happening simultaneously through our traditions. And the traditions have stood the test of time, and I firmly believe that they will continue to.
Right, wonderful. Pratik, can we hear a little bit about, can we hear some of the things that got you excited, that sent a thrill down your spine, something that you heard for the first time and you thought, oh my God, what have I been missing?
Okay, so I found quite a lot of songs that way. I'll just walk you through some.
Yeah.
There was a Krishna Lila written by Harihara from a village of Ganjam, Gautami. So, that was known to be one of the toughest Leelas to master, and just as a side note, these are all based in Odissi music, of course, because that's the language, that's the music of this area. And I went to a village in Rayagada where current Kirtana practitioners told that our father was put to sleep by our grandfather singing this song. Because in that song, Yashoda is telling to Krishna, Soipada, which is another song we'll be taking you through. So, ଅଛି ଅନେକ ରାତିରେ ଶ୍ୟାମ ସୁନ୍ଦର This song hasn't been sung in the public arena for some 50, 70 years. That's such a sad thing to note. There's Radha Premalila in our villages, on which Kedusar's guru actually, Mohan Gosai, was very acquainted with Radha Premalila of Ganjam, which is, look at the planning of the theatre. A kid comes in the guise of Krishna, there's Radha's Kunja, and Krishna is just appealing, please forgive me. So he comes in the guise of a bird seller, then he comes to put alta on her feet, and he comes in various characters. Now, Kedusar's guru cleverly notes, Mohan Sundardev Goswami, cleverly notes that and he makes an adaptation of that. That passes down to Kelusir as the, what is the Manabhanjan, which is the famous. Now you have the grandfather of that form dying, whereas the grandson or granddaughter, whatever you call it, is surviving very much in the Odissi arena. So there are songs like Krishna goes to Radha as the bangle seller, Kacharavesa. He is telling you take a black bangle because you are golden in color and your beloved one is black. Therefore, rakha rakha rasikare ghana kuntala to karaku kola kacha maniva pora. Now Radha is annoyed. So Radha is telling, no, I don't want black. What is the opposite of black? Golden. So I want a golden bangle because I'm that annoyed with him. Dekhao dekhi bhi basanta kacha kahi kahi. Look at the language, this Sukhma Rasabudha, which we are sorely lacking in today's generation. Manohara sajada go manohara sajada ekola kacha joda au e mote loda au e mote loda nahi dekhao dekhibi mu basanta kacha kachara basanta kacha kahi kahi dekhao dekhibi mu. Now this raga, Panchama Bharadi, is a very unique treasure of Odisha. All of us know. Are babu syama ghana tu gale madhubhuvana. This is in that track. We have so many gems lying around. Unfortunately, temples stay even if you don't excavate them. And these things die if you don't get them. That
but
is the
I'm
trouble.
glad we have people like you to continue that. Arushi, would you like to tell us something or show us something that would demonstrate what he's telling us? Yeah.
So he was talking about a song where a mother is putting a child to sleep, something like that.
I found it interesting that it was a father putting his son to sleep, right?
But
that was quite
No, I was
interesting.
telling this song that I first sang. The song was sung sometime in the 1920s by a man
By a
putting
man.
his son to sleep.
That's right. Which
And
is
now
so-
the grandson is telling, my father used to sing this song, telling that, can you please find it for me? And I had to scour around and finally found that song.
oh, nice.
Wonderful.
So there's this song where Yashoda is putting Krishna to sleep. Raja Kuchora. I thought we'll just do one line from
Please
that.
do.
Because there's just one thing I want to say here that, you talked about how to keep it more relevant.
Contemporary, relevant, yeah.
relevant. So what I feel is that the stories that we express through our dance forms, often people get stuck on the characters saying that, oh, these are mythological characters from Indian culture or from this state or, they were ancient characters, how can we relate to them? So I would think that, what I would say is that one has to look beyond the characters because what we're essentially trying to portray are emotions that are human emotions and human emotions that are universal, which again cross all boundaries. So a mother putting a child to sleep is not limited to Odisha or to India, but across the world, which is why these art forms are also very well appreciated abroad. So we're just going to do one line from
Please do.
that song. I'll just sit and do the...
Yeah.
So I'll speak the lines out
Yeah.
so you can relate. Gopal Krishna Patnaik from Paralakhemudi writes some 200 years ago, Brajaku choro asichi gheni nebo suo tuni huire. So Yashoda is telling her son, a thief has come to Braja, therefore you sleep quietly or he'll snatch you and take you away. Which is an emotion that is so commonly heard. Brajaku choro asichi gheni nebo suo tuni hoi re. Brajaku choro asichi gheni nebo सुअ तुनी होई रे
Wonderful. I think we can all understand that. I'm going to be a little bit greedy and ask you to do something else.
Okay, so we go back to Kavi Surya. So Kavi Surya writes in his Champu, which is a classic. In the Kha song, Lalita कहउचंती राधा को जे मु कृष्ण को देखिया मना करथिली तुम कथा सुनलुनी काहे कि बाँ पटु कदम मूल को देखिलु खराप तू हेलु रे खेल लोल खंज नाखी चंचल खंजन पक्षीर आखिटा बहुत चंचल तो खंजन पक्षी भाया जोर आखि कहीं तो आखि आड़ साइड जाकि खेलुची मु तते मना करथिली तो यू हैव बिकम बैड और खराप तू हेलु रे कदला
You're over. Yeah.
खेल लोल खंज नाखी खेल लोल खंज नाखी रे कि साहस कलु रे खराप तू हेलु रे खराप तू हेलु रे.
Wonderful, wonderful. And to round it off, we want Sniti to sing us an Uriya song. And please, if you know the words, please join in because you'll very rarely get an opportunity like this. Sniti, over to you.
Odia song is, I'm totally enthralled by this beautiful performance by Arushi. I would like to sing one Odia classical song that we all know. It's a very popular Odia classical song, composed and performed by none other than Vidushi Sunanda Patnaik ji. So I know you all know this, but I would try to make you sing. If you know the lyrics, then please join with me. Based on Rag Bhairavi. जीवन पात्र मो भरी छकेते मोते न देला किछि कहीं भी की आऊ जीवन पात्र मो भरी छकेते मते न देला किछि बोली कहीं भी की आऊ जीवन प्रियतम हरिच्छ मोहरम तरणि मोर तब सागरे बहि जाऊ तरणि मोर तब सागरे बहि जाऊ जीवन पात्र मो भरी छकेते मते न देला किछि बोली कहिबी कि हे आऊ जीवन पात्र मो.
really wish we could continue with this session, but you know, we have other sessions to go to. But all I can say is that I think Odisha culture is in very, very safe hands. The future is right here. We have 3 brilliant practitioners of it. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the very best.